Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast, a peek behind the curtain of some of the most intimate conversations that people have with Ezra as an intimacy coach. Join us for a session already in progress. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to the Ask Ezra podcast.
Ezra, how's it going, sir?
Oh, it's lovely. I'm happy to have you.
Great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and we met at the dungeon, didn't we?
Yes, a while ago. I don't know when.
Yeah,
it's been many years.
It's been a number of years. I feel like it was no doubt Sanctuary LAX, but what day or what party escapes me.
Right.
So maybe it was the Lost and Found events, because you volunteered with that for a long time, right?
Well, I not volunteered at the Lost and Found, but I've been going to let me see. I don't recall.
No,
It's
okay.
been such a long time.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
Anything pre-COVID is like a lifetime ago, right?
Yeah, it does feel that way sometimes.
Right.
But thanks for coming on the show. So yeah, let's start with like kind of an attunement, like a mindfulness of, where are you at in your body? Where is, what's going on with you? Anything causing you suffering, or it feels like a roadblock, or it could be with your relationship with yourself or relationship with partners, or what's going
on? Externally, like everything in my life outside of my, is going great right now. My relationships are really good. One thing that I have to focus on is I have my main relationship, and then I have play partners, and really the balance between the two is, at this point in my life, I've never had so many, balls up in the air, right? Juggling. It's definitely takes a lot more of my time and mental strength to make sure everyone's taken care of, and I'm doing my due diligence as play partner, as a top, as a boyfriend.
Sure. Now, are you polyamorous, Daniel?
Yes, that's correct. I have one major, I don't know if I'll consider hierarchy or anarchy or which, polyamorous, but right now, I'm very flexible. And right now I have a major, you can call it hierarchy. I do have one major relationship. And like I said, play partners and some with benefits.
Sure. Now, I think the line between hierarchy and non-hierarchy polyamory is like, is your main relationship more important than the others? Like if you had a relationship that was not your main relationship, that was like getting in the way of the other one, are you necessarily gonna make that non-main relationship like bend to accommodate your main relationship, or is that like a question that needs to be answered?
That's a good question. I think my main relationship has to be okay with my other, play partners, other relationships. That's kind of necessary, and vice versa.
Yeah. So it does sound so. Okay, so A needs to be okay with B, and B needs to be okay with A.
Correct.
Okay, but it's not like if B is not okay with A, that's all right. But if A is not okay with B, that's a problem.
Yeah, and I think like right now everyone's okay with everything how we're at.
Yeah.
But if someone new wants to be a play partner, they would have to be okay with the setup. Or if somebody wants to be in a relationship, then they would have to be okay with how it's going right now for me. Yeah.
Is your main relationship romantic and the rest of them sort of not romantic?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Pardon me. Yeah, and I think hierarchy is a funny thing. Like, I think sometimes there's like a default hierarchy. Like if I'm living with my partner, then that person's going to take priority because we're cohabitating, right? Or if I'm a parent with my partner, then that relationship's going to take precedent, because it's like we're running a business together practically, right? So I think sometimes there's like descriptive hierarchy where it just sort of happens to be that way, and then there's like prescriptive hierarchy where you decide at some point, well, this is my main relationship and everything else is secondary, or everything else needs to be okay with the one thing. But so it's not clear to me whether that's going on. Are you like cohabitating with your main partner, or do you have kids or a business?
No kids, no business. Still relatively new. Just hit our 3-month mark officially.
Oh, okay.
As a relationship, we were play partners before, but we definitely wanted to take it to the next level, and we had that attraction. We wanted to invest feelings and really just go for it. And we were both right place in our lives, right time to be together.
Yeah. So here's a question. If one of your non-main relationships became romantic, would that be inherently a problem, or would that be, a question to answer?
We would have to talk about it, but I don't see that being an issue. Currently now she has another relationship, I believe, yeah, she's with another person as well right now in a relationship.
Yeah. Is there power exchange in the main relationship?
Between those two, yes.
Between them two, but not between you two?
Correct. Well, it's difficult to say if there's a power exchange, as we're not in a dom sub. We're, as play partners, it's more top bottom.
Sure.
But as a relationship, outside the dungeon, it's a really great 50-50.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I love. That's what I look for.
I always like to say nothing's exactly 50-50.
Well, we, that 1% we're not gonna, bicker over for sure. But
sure. I'm just causing trouble, Daniel.
All good.
Yeah, it's interesting. In my experience, I was squarely in hierarchical polyamory, right? I was in like a 24/7 master slave relationship. So of course there's power exchange.
Right.
And then all other relationships were secondary to that primary relationship. And if there were any relationships that endangered the primary relationship, they were automatically dealt with first before the primary relationship. But that ended, and with a fair amount of trepidation. And so I don't know if I'm reacting, but I'm definitely feeling the relationship anarchy right now. And the way that I think about that is like not claiming power, like giving the relationship the respect that it deserves, but really not asking anybody to do anything right now. You know what I mean? So sort of like a free-form democracy of relationships.
Right. That sounds like a good way to do it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Who knows? Anarchists always get a bad rap.
Right.
So you're saying that there's a lot going on right now. Does it feel like there's like a high potential for conflict, or do you feel like there is a conflict, or is it like, taking a lot more of your resources than you imagined, or?
Like I said, there's no real conflicts. Everybody is kind of happy where they're at.
Yeah.
A lot of my play partners, they're not looking for, I have one play partner. She says she's polysaturated. And so she's not looking for any more, relationship partners.
Sure.
But
and
as far as play partners go, it's great.
Yeah. And then polysaturated is that feeling of like too much or just enough, can't take on any more partners, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Is that where you're feeling, Daniel?
Almost to that point.
Almost. There's still a little bit of room.
Right. I can probably squeeze another play partner, another or two.
Oh, how magnanimous of you.
You know, if I try real hard, you know, give back to the community.
Sure.
Um,
Give back that dick. That's cool. So so yeah, I would be interested in, like, I think intimacy coaching is usually helpful for people who are like having a challenge, right?
right. I was about to get to the kind of the
Yeah.
challenge part. Um, like I said, this is the most I've people I've had to coordinate, you know, outside of a job. And it's really time consuming, and I feel like there's not enough play parties. And um, I definitely struggle with keeping in contact with everyone. I'll, you know, when I have some downtime, I'll go through my text and realize I missed a text a few days ago, and you know, they're waiting on my response, as you probably have witnessed.
It's okay. Yeah. We had a little bit of a foobar. We started our appointment late, but that's okay.
Right, right.
You're lucky. Today's not too busy.
Good, good. Um, yeah, and just I definitely, you know, all my life I've really been kind of a people pleaser, and you know, being a top slash, I won't even say dom, but yeah, being a top, that's definitely I won't say counterproductive, but um it's one of the things, like I don't want to fall into like being a service top as well.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of people coming up to me, you know, I being professional as well, you know, I do spend my time, I do charge for my time teaching and playing, providing services, you know, in the QPDSM community. But I definitely do have a lot of people coming up asking for instructional or playtime, and you know, are you going to be at a party? Can you teach me how to Florentine flog, or stuff like that? And right now, I really don't have the time for that. And it feels like you know, here in the LA area, definitely not as many play parties as there usually is.
Yeah, pre-COVID, certainly.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But even now, once the COVID numbers were down, you know, it felt like every weekend there was 2 or 3 good parties to go to. But I think now it's kind of scarce.
Well, I think that people's capacity is limited now. I think that we got used to not going anywhere, and it's harder to go and do things. And you have to remember that the parties are organized by people.
Very true.
You know, like I'm a party organizer, and we had a great party. The gender expansive play party was really nice, and I would love to do that again, but I'm also like up to my tits in work, and it's hard to clear the time to do that. You know, it's hard to dedicate the time. So I understand, and I think it's a combination of like burnout from people attending parties and burnout from the organizers, and a lot of the venues are struggling. But I don't mean to make excuses, but I think you're totally right. You know, in Los Angeles we get really spoiled, and I remember pre-COVID, every Friday and Saturday night there were 3 parties to choose from each. Right, so there's 6 opportunities to go to a party. And those are the big ones, not including house parties and everything like that. So
very true.
Yeah. So people pleasing is a challenge for sure. And when we talk about people pleasing, I think it's funny because a lot of people don't understand that people pleasing describes a counterproductive behavior. Right? Do you feel that, or do you feel like it describes a positive quality?
I can see both ways. If you're it depends. If you're trying to get something out of it, like if in a relationship you're trying to make sure a partner is happy, I think that's mutually beneficial as long as they're not taking advantage. But as far as bending over backwards, sacrificing your own health and time to make sure an individual is pleased, and that's not being reciprocated, then that's definitely a negative.
Yeah. And I think it's important to realize that a desire to please your partner is not necessarily unhealthy, right? It's when it is held in a higher regard to taking care of yourself, or like, creating sustainable relationships and sustainable patterns, behavior, and things like that. And people pleasing does not describe the healthy parts, right? People pleasing describes when it's kind of counterproductive or destructive, or makes it impossible for you to keep healthy boundaries or get your needs met, right? In the same way that, like, it's healthy to have an ego, it's healthy to have like an ego and think about yourself. Narcissism does not describe a healthy ego. Right. And true. So people pleasing is really about putting other people's needs ahead of yours. Right. And that can be really attractive both for the giver and for the receiver. And it typically has to do with like a self-worth issue, right? To say my partner's needs are more important than mine is not a healthy attitude.
Correct.
Right. I think we can role play that. We can have a scene where we're like, I don't exist, I'm your slave, I have no needs, but that's not real. And I don't think it goes that far with you, but I think that you should be careful to think about, because nobody knows your needs like you do. Right.
Correct.
Like, you could have all these partners, and even these can be people-pleasing partners, but they still aren't going to understand you from the inside like you do.
Correct.
And I think there is a tendency with people pleasers to find either people who will reciprocate that and like people please the other direction. And so I know your needs and you know my needs, and nobody has to work on themselves. And you can imagine how that's, that can lead to an unhealthy dynamic, right? That can lead to codependency pretty quickly.
Right.
And the other trap is the person who doesn't reciprocate, but is really happy to receive, right? And to sort of leave you feeling drained. And one thing I want you to think about is, I remember talking to somebody who was monogamous and saying how I was interested in having these multiple relationships. And he said, boy, multiple relationships, I'm barely surviving the one, and it sounds funny, but it comes from this idea that every relationship costs you, right? So if you have all of these exchanges and you're left $1 short after every exchange, you're going to go broke.
Very true.
So the thing to think about is, what are your needs? What do you need to do to keep yourself, happy and healthy, right? And I think the tool for that is going to be setting and resetting boundaries, right? And also like really being crystal clear on expectations.
I usually don't try and set expectations. I'm pretty free flowing, but definitely have a guideline. Like if you're looking for a new play partner, you definitely want some things to fall in line between you and them. But as I've come to realize, is like setting expectations, you're almost always going to be let down.
Oof, that's a big one.
Well, I'm just saying, like, even like going out, meeting somebody new, and I definitely dated someone who would set expectations for how the people around them should act. And anytime they anyone stepped out of line of those expectations, she felt very smited against and took it to a very unhealthy, negative way of thinking.
Sure.
It's kind of funny. I was watching the Amber Heard trial, and the psychologist describing Amber Heard almost, was very definitive of my ex. So
there you go.
right.
I hope she didn't shit in your bed.
No shit in the bed, luckily. I think we ended before that.
Would you like private intimacy coaching? Perhaps you'd like to be a guest on our show. Either way, book your free 30-minute intro call with Ezra at AskEzra.info.
That's a really poor example of setting boundaries.
Okay. Well, setting boundaries, yeah. Well, are we talking expectations or boundaries?
They're kind of the same thing, right?
I can see a little bit of difference, but I understand.
Sure.
What you're saying.
No. I mean, they are different, but I think they go hand in hand, right? So this person was putting expectations on other people,
right?
Yeah, which is controlling behavior.
Very so.
Yeah. So that's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
Right.
So I see boundaries are good because you know them, and then you can communicate them very well.
Yeah.
I think expectations in my mind just aren't communicated. They're just like in your head thinking people should follow these imaginary rules.
Well, so I think if we can get better, I mean, when I say we, I mean you, at setting expectations and boundaries, then you can, without diminishing the number of people you're involved in, you can be better protected. Like
protected how? Protected
in your time and protected in your energy.
Okay.
Right? Like if you're like, boy, this is exhausting, then A, it's too much, or B, you're not setting the proper boundaries and expectations. Right. Okay. So let me like give you an example of healthy boundary setting and expectation setting. Right. Okay. So let's just use, you gave me an example of like, sometimes you don't get back to somebody quickly. Right. And I understand that a lot of people have this expectation of, if I text you, I should get a text back in the same day. Right. Or like the next day, whatever. Those are assumed expectations. You can have a conversation and say, I am quite busy. I may not get back to you within a day or two. And I want you to know that I value our conversation and I want to be part of it, but I can't text you every day.
Right.
Right. So that's setting an expectation. Setting a boundary is saying, I can't have you text me every day. Right. Now that can sound harsh, but if they are trying to text you every day and are constantly getting disappointed, then it's more harsh to not have that conversation. I mean, like polyamory, the joke is like, polyamory is all about Google Calendar, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's having that conversation. That's a tool of that conversation. And there are ways to like automate some of these conversations. Like with Google Calendar, you can communicate your availability without having the conversation. You just give them access to your calendar. But I think what's most important is to say, hey, this is what I can do. And if you need more than that, I'm not your guy. Or maybe there's a creative solution. If that person wants to text you and that you're having trouble getting back to them, you could say, if you want to text on Sundays, I can do that. Right. And so now we're setting expectations. And if it's more than that, then awesome. If it's less than that, then maybe it's a different conversation that you have to have, because, the person has set specific expectations. Like I can tell you, if I have a relationship with somebody, if I'm a play partner with somebody and they're not texting back like same day, I'm gonna have a hard time with that, you
Right.
know. And it's not a value judgment. Not everybody can text every day,
Right.
but I'm gonna be disappointed if the expectation is to text back every day,
Mhm.
right? But I'll at the same time, I have some partners that I know are not available in that way, and I can say, hey, like I know we're not going to text every day, but I want to let you know that I'm thinking about you without feeling disappointed. And so what I do is I'll send flowers.
Oh, wow.
I'll send a picture of flowers,
Oh, okay.
and I'll say, hey, yeah, no, I don't, I can't show up like that. I got too many partners myself. But no, I'll send a text message with flower, but I'll also have that conversation ahead of time and say, hey, just because I've sent you a flower doesn't mean you're obligated to have a response ready for me. It's
Mhm.
welcome, but it's not expected.
Mhm.
But when I text you a question, I kind of want it back,
Right. That makes sense.
you know. And so that way we're setting expectations, because otherwise, if you don't have a conversation about expectations, then they're almost always misaligned, and then somebody's going to be disappointed.
Definitely. See, I think that's what I was trying to say at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the question, is who's disappointed, or has it not happened yet?
I don't think the disappointment or the notification of disappointment has been reached at this time yet. It's something I'm still working on, but hopefully I don't, get to that point where we have to have that talk like, hey, look, you're not responding to me in a timely fashion. This isn't going to work. Luckily it hasn't been there yet. So,
well, and we can model that. I mean, that was the words of your hypothetical partner, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But just to model like that conversation in a more constructive way, it's probably better to use like I statements. So your partner might say, hey, when I don't hear from you in a couple days, it makes me feel kind of sad.
Right.
And then you can have a conversation about how can you create expectations that are, more doable. Yeah. The other thing that you can do, Daniel, is that you can say like, hey, I'm feeling really thinly spread. So
Right.
I care about you, but I might not reach out to you as often as I would like to. And I want you to know it's okay to reach out to me, maybe in a way that doesn't match up with gender roles, right?
Right.
You can proposition me. If you have something that you want me to come to, let me know, because I'm up to my ears, and I don't have the energy to think about stuff.
Right. And that definitely takes energy on my part to say stuff like that, because of the people pleasing, because I want to be like, okay, there's an issue. Well, I'll fix it for you.
It shouldn't always be you.
Right.
Yeah. And you're gonna burn out.
It's true. I have in the past. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's one great thing about my relationship now is I feel so comfortable being able to just communicate almost everything with my partner. And it's definitely a breath of fresh air. Because in the past, I've definitely felt like I've been the one making the sacrifices and doing in most of the work. And like you said, it is very draining, very taxing.
Yeah. And that's not, you talked about 50-50 before,
Right.
And that's not 50-50.
Back then, yeah, you're correct. My previous, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and because that's how it happened before, you're also at a risk of falling into those patterns as well.
Which patterns?
Of giving more than the 50.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so just be aware of that.
That's true. Especially if they start expecting it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we can, as DOMs, as tops, we can have a night where we're 100%. Right.
Yes.
But you can't live that way.
Exactly. That's very true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not an expert in people pleasing. There's like a whole school of thought around it. And I'd encourage you to look at, some of those writings, because it might help you identify like either triggers or like flags of like, oh, hey, this is happening. So now that's there's probably going to be a problem if I don't address it. But let me like draw an example, like kind of an extreme obvious example, but like sometimes people pleasers will be silent about their discomfort because it feels like it's a service to someone else.
Right.
But in the end, if that person cares about you, then it is actually a disservice. Right? So okay. Yeah. So let's say that me and you are having a conversation.
Right.
And I'm a people pleaser and you are a close talker. And I hate close talkers. Right? I can't handle it, right? You invade my personal space. I want to start throwing fists, right?
I want to smell your breath.
Right? So the best thing to do is to own up to that and say, hey, Daniel, I really value our friendship and I want to be able to continue to talk to you, but I'm going to need you to take one full step back to be able to participate in this conversation.
Yeah, right.
And that's not controlling others. That's saying, this is what I need. What I need is just a little bit more physical space. Right. So the alternative to that is not saying it. Right. This is what I should say. I'm not saying it. Now, all of a sudden, it's bothering me. It's bothering me. It's bothering me. And I explode. Right. And I go, you got to fucking back up, man.
Yeah.
But I never told you that that's what I needed. Right. And so it's not fair. It's not, it never was a service. The thing to think about is when people cross our boundaries, we let them slide when we're not invested in the relationship, right? Some stranger does some close talking. I'm not going to confront them because it's just a 10-second interaction and I don't ever want to see them again, right?
Correct.
But I value your friendship, Daniel. I want to be friends with you. And I can't do that if you're too close, right? So we're going to have that conversation because I'm invested in the relationship.
You're right. Even though like at the time, oh gosh, it would feel so uncomfortable, but you're right. Just that few moments is definitely going to prevent more discomfort and even, like you said, an escalation in the long run.
Yeah. Or worse, I'm going to avoid you and you're not going to know why.
Right. And it's just going to be that one thing that upsets you, but yeah, you're going to, avoid me at the,
Yeah. And that happens on like microscopic levels.
Right.
And so the best thing that you can do is really get super comfortable owning up to your feelings and asking for what you need, or more even stating what you need. And the people who love you, Daniel, are gonna jump to do that. Right. And you may find that there are some people who have really taken advantage of your people pleasing. And when you start to stand up for yourself, they're going to go, this isn't the party I signed up for.
Right.
And really, you don't want those people.
Exactly.
So
that's definitely a negative trait that you want to weed out of your life.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's worth the work. It is work. It does take an effort to get to that place of really owning up to your feelings, but it's definitely worth doing.
Right.
And then also, in the case where you're like finding the other people pleaser that can please you while you please them, right? Then doing this work is a gift to them because you're showing them how to be like more authentic in the world. You're modeling.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and you give them a chance to grow.
Right.
Which is huge.
Definitely. We all. What's that?
Do you want to role play?
How do you want to role play this?
We could I can be just a little irritating, and then you can tell me that it's not how you'd like things to go.
Okay.
And remind me that you value our friendship.
Okay, I can do that.
We could do the close talker thing. You want to do the close talker thing?
Oh, I was hoping you were going to come up with something different.
Okay,
Close.
well, hold on. Give me a second. What can I
Yeah.
do? I could be, let's be titillating.
Okay.
I did this in real life. I had to be an oversharer. So let me like launch into a conversation about my sexual escapades, and then quickly, please, so that I don't reveal too much of what's going on in my life. You're going to tell me that you don't really want to have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Okay.
Can you imagine being in a situation where somebody's like oversharing and you're like, wow, I really wish they weren't, but you'd just be silent?
I mean, like in the dungeon and in our parties, we definitely hear a lot, don't we? We definitely.
Well, let's say I see you at Walmart. Let's say I see you at the bank.
And I have a parent with me. There you go.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's an inappropriate setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could let it slide and resent me for it, or you could be own up to the feelings, make I statements, and request the change of behavior.
Okay, use I statements. Okay.
Yeah, so you say, hey, I'm a little uncomfortable having this conversation.
Right.
Yeah, so let's do this. You share with me first, and I'll be at the bank with a parent.
Okay.
And then I'll interrupt and ask you to not share, and then we'll switch.
Okay. Ezra, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe
Daniel.
we've seen each other like this.
I know.
I had a crazy night last night. I was with 2 girls.
Hey, Daniel.
Dog.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But this is my client, and I would really rather we have this conversation a different time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We can definitely do that. All right, man. Hey, I got your number.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Please do call me.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thanks for understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Easy.
There we go.
Right.
Like I said, like I get so uncomfortable in those moments, but like you have to, right? You got to set that.
Well, and the way to think about it is it doesn't get any easier as time passes. So just jump on it. You got to just jump on it, because if it's 2 seconds, like I put a cork in that real fast. Right? If it's 10 seconds, I don't want to know what happened with the dog.
That was off the top of my head. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about your personal life, Daniel.
It was good you stopped me there.
Yeah. So yeah, and I didn't say, hey, jackass.
Right.
I said, hey, this is what I need right now. Right. So okay. So now we're gonna switch roles.
Okay.
Daniel, my guy.
Ezra, good to see you.
I can't believe I've seen you at the bank. Usually I just see you at the dungeon.
Oh, yep. Yeah, at the party, right? The party we go to, okay?
Yep. Yeah. Dude, okay, I got to show you this. We had this one time. It was crazy, man. I was on stage. They were like,
one second. I'm here with my family here. So
okay.
If we can go ahead and keep it G-rated and everything, and maybe
gotcha.
Keep that for later. We'll definitely talk later at the parties.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you there, buddy.
Great. Thanks. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Here you go. And scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could feel that it's uncomfortable, but it's much more uncomfortable to have a conversation afterwards. Right. Or after I've embarrassed your family. Right.
Right.
So yeah, you just got to jump in, and I appreciate you. You stopped me real fast. Right. And used I statements. I got it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think what was really good is you gave me a redirect, right? Like anybody who works with kids knows that you don't say, don't do this. You say, do this instead.
Right. True.
Right. And that's what you did. You said, hey, why don't we talk at the party?
Yep. That definitely works.
Yeah.
like I said, a little bit of uncomfortableness, definitely, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. And the more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Okay.
And you just told me that you have binders full of women, to quote Al Gore. So you have all these opportunities to say, hey, can we practice this?
Right.
And the best thing about, I don't know about the best thing about, but one good thing about BDSM relationships is they're often willing to role play. So, and what I would say is like, make the stakes super low, right? And establish a baseline of really positive and fun activities, right? So you'd be like, oh, hey, why don't you grab a chip from my bag of chips? And I'll say, I love you. And there's other bags of chips, and I'd really prefer if you had your own bag of chips because I wanted all of these. Right? Super easy, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody really gets too uptight about chips.
Right.
But you have that conversation. You say, hey, I want to have this. I want to get better at sharing my boundaries. So
Very true.
Yeah.
Like I said, like it sometimes takes me in a point in a relationship to get comfortable enough to do it. But I think if even a friendship, even a play partner, it's better to have those boundaries in place up front. You're right.
And it's like this activation energy, right? Like it doesn't, if you wait until it's super stressed out, then it's always going to be a negative experience.
You're going to come from a place of negativity. Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas if you get in front of it, that you can be loving, you can share that boundary lovingly. So, which I think is really important, is to be, because these are our relationships. We want them, right? So we want to show up with love instead of anger and frustration if we can.
Big time. Come from a good place. Yes.
And I'm not perfect, like nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? I've exploded too. I've had a hard time sharing boundaries in the past, and I'm working on it. Like that's what I love about like this intimacy coaching is I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be done. I'm on the path as well. We're
forever a student.
Yeah, we're companions, compatriots, right? Not I'm not telling you from a place of perfection. I'm telling you from, this is something I'm working on too. And it's really important. I right now I have a relationship where if I wasn't proactive about boundary setting, 100% it would be like a ticking time bomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I have a partner who is a lot of fun, but I also know that I'm not in a place for a romantic relationship right now.
Right.
And, sometimes when you're having a lot of fun with somebody, you get excited and you want it to be more. And I just, from the very beginning, I said, I really like what we have, and I want to be a good friend and an excellent lover, but I cannot be more than that right now, and which is really confusing because I think that sometimes we have romantic partners that aren't even very good friends. And so when you show up as a good friend, it feels like more, right? But I had to be really crystal clear and laser precise about, I cannot commit to this. I cannot show up when times are tough. I am here for fun. I'm having enough tough times on my own. I can't help you. But they have like a really substantial support network. And so I know that when times are tough, they're not going to be all alone, and as much as I want to people please and give them everything they want, I know that that's just disaster. That would spell disaster. And then it wouldn't work.
Right.
And unlike you, Daniel, I'm not in a position to be throwing partners away because my stable's so full.
No, it's a good place to be. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, you got a big laboratory, right? You can experiment. You can have one of your multiple relationships be a place where there's like more friction on that boundary setting, and say like, I really want to work on this. Right. And then you can let the rest be organic and really focus on one. And because if you can find the place that has the most friction, and you can reduce that friction, then now all of a sudden you've reduced the most potential friction with the least amount of effort.
Right.
So
that's a good thought, way to think about that.
Yeah. And you could put more energy into fixing the fuck up than in the maintenance. So you might as well put the energy into the maintenance.
Right. It's tough putting that energy in,
Well, it's like getting an oil change, right?
But I'm saying it's reoccurring, right?
Yeah.
So like an oil change, you have to do it. You have to keep an eye on it every 3,000 miles, whatever it is.
Yeah. And if you don't get an oil change, you're gonna fuck your car up hard.
Yep. That's a good example there. Yeah.
I had a friend who he's got an oil leak.
Yeah.
And he waits until he can hear knocking.
Oh no.
And I'm like, bro, like you drive for a living.
Yeah.
And that's his life. That's how he shows up in life.
Oh, really?
Is he does not address problems until they become catastrophic. And then it's always this catastrophe.
Yeah. And now you're spending more time, more money, more effort.
Yeah. If that's what you want out of a relationship, if you want catastrophe in your relationships, more power to you.
Wait till the relationship starts knocking. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is great. I really appreciate your coming and showing up so authentically, Daniel.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'd love, you can have you back here. There's always room for growth, right? And maybe try some stuff out, and you can let us know how it worked out. I'd like to let listeners know that this has been the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. There is a Patreon. It's patreon.com/AskEzra. And you can get discounted intimacy coaching sessions if you sign up for the monthly subscription. And let's see what else. There's all kinds of good stuff going on. Join the Ask Ezra mailing list at AskEzra.info, and you get to hear about all the wonderful things that are coming up. I know I'll be performing at LA Pride, but this is going to air after LA Pride anyway. But you got to join the mailing list, and then you'll find out this cool stuff. Awesome. Is there anything you got going on, Daniel, that you want to let people know about? Or
I love teach flogging. I teach flogging at the Club Awakening parties here in Los Angeles. If you want to find out whatever I'm doing, my pet life is DanielLawson. And of course, definitely trying to write a lot more of my experiences in the BDSM community, trying to help people out. If you're new, I have a lot of different guides, I guess, and that's at DanielLawson.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Support our show at patreon.com/AskEzra. Join us at the personal growth tier and receive a special thank you on the next podcast episode.